Today I'm going to be addressing a couple safety issues that the Monster has. One of them's a little more serious than the other, but both of them I discovered the hard way. During my normal daily tour, I usually stop at the park. I go down to the river and take a break. You wouldn't think driving a scooter you'd need a break, but with me driving with one hand, my arm gets tired and my hand generally cramps up from squeezing the throttle the whole way. So anyways, I go down there and I stop, and when I come back out of the park, I come up to the road, I cross the road to the next part of the trail, and if there's cars coming, I have to stop. This normally is not an issue, but what happens when you let go of the throttle, the motor slows the scooter down. Like, the scooter stops pretty fast, but as soon as you're almost at a stop, the actual physical brakes will come on and just kind of stop you dead and hold you in position. And if you hear the thunk when I stop, that's the actual brakes coming on. That's how things are supposed to work. However, back in early August, at this very same spot, I had a bit of a scare. Come up, and there's a line of cars coming, so I go stop like I normally do, and the brakes aren't coming on. The scooter's gradually rolling forward. You hear the backup beeper and trying to go backwards. The scooter's just not responding. So I had nowhere to go, so I just, now that the vehicles are gone, gradually roll out onto the road so that the scooter stops. And I'm turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, trying to figure out what's going on. It's a new experience for me. I haven't had this happen before. So the only thing I could think at this point was to put it in manual mode and push it back up on the hill, so at least I'm off the road. Now the lever, there's a lever on the back of scooters. You have it in one position and everything's connected and you're able to drive. And if you slide the lever in the opposite direction, then it puts it in manual mode. What it does is it disconnects from the motor so that you're able to push it freely, which I made the error here. Didn't do it right. Try it again. At this point, it's really embarrassing. All this traffic's going by. And so push it back up on the hill. So now I'm off the road. Take another look at it. Put it back in drive mode. Then I go back on the scooter, turn it on, and guess what? It's now working normally. So what I think had happened, well, at the time what I thought had happened, I thought maybe I didn't put the lever completely forward into drive mode, and it just kind of shook loose or something. So I figured that was the end of that. Then, about 3-4 weeks later, I'm driving along, and there's a bunch of people on bikes coming, so I pull over to the side to let them go. Everything's normal at this point. I come to a complete stop. I didn't notice whether or not the brakes came on or not. Waiting. And once the final person goes by, I go to drive, and again, the scooter doesn't respond. So my first thought is the lever again. Now, if you watch the display, you see it goes into error mode. So the lever is definitely out of place. Now, I hadn't touched the lever from the first time it happened to this time, so I know it wasn't me that didn't push it all the way forward. So now I'm thinking the vibrations are doing it, because like this scooter's fast. and you can see on the sidewalk, you know, it's just kind of bumpy. So the vibration from the tires themselves and vibration from the bumps is jarring this lever loose. So I keep an eye on it now. Every once in a while I just kind of give it a little kick forward before I get on, just to make sure it's all the way forward. But the reason this scares me is because there are times I have to stop. I don't have a choice. I got nowhere to go. I have to stop. A perfect example of this is sometimes when I go down the park, I'll go down the boat launch, and I'll sit by the river right at the edge, at the bottom of the boat launch, and it's pretty steep, and you can't really tell with this video, but there's a really big drop off right at the bottom. And you can imagine if the scooter didn't stop, you know, what the consequences would be. At the very least, it'd go straight in, and I doubt very much I'd be able to get the scooter out myself. I'd need help with somebody, you know, pushing and pulling or whatever. But the worst case scenario is I got a seatbelt on. I'm wearing a seatbelt on this scooter. I generally have a coffee in my hand, so I can't just, you know, take the seatbelt off, lift the armrest off, and jump off. It's just, there's no time. So the worst case scenario would be I just turn to try to avoid going into the water and then just flip over sideways into it. So as you can see, you know, that is why this lever situation concerns me. Since I've figured all this out, I haven't gone down there as much. I still do once in a while, but that's always on my mind. Am I going to be able to stop at the bottom? Because when that happens, generally I don't have any control over the scooter. There's no response, so I can't even back up to prevent from going in the water. So you can see what my concern is there. And of the two safety issues that I have identified, this is actually a minor one. The other one is a little bit worse. The second safety issue also involves stopping, but in a different way. In my monster review video, I was talking about body roll, and with the soft suspension, the wheel comes off the ground and spins if you turn sharply. There's one thing I'd like to point out that you need to watch for. If you're going full throttle, full speed or whatever, when you turn a corner, it does lean to the outside. In a car, that's called body roll. With a scooter, I'm not sure. To me, it would be the same thing, but I'm not sure if it's the same terminology or not. But if you're going really full, really full, if you're going really fast, full throttle, whatever, and you turn sharp, the scooter will lean, and the back wheel does come off the ground, and it'll spin. It's not a big problem. You're not in danger of flipping over or anything, but it, you know, you do that too many times, and the wheel's gonna, or the tire's gonna, you know, wear the tread off it pretty quickly. So you just kind of got to watch for that. Now that may sound harmless enough. Just slow down on the turns, ease off on the accelerator, and the scooter won't lean as much, the wheel will stay on the ground, and it won't spin off all the tread. Now the problem is, it doesn't just happen with accelerating, it also happens with braking. If you have to swerve, the scooter leans, the tire comes off the ground, and it will not stop. A good example here, after this truck goes by, hit full throttle, and a really tight corner, let off the throttle, and it kept going. It didn't stop until I straightened out and the wheel came back down. The reason for that is just the way differentials work. Scooters have differentials in the back end too, so both wheels can spin at different speeds when you're turning. Typical stuff. But because of that, when you turn a corner with one wheel off the ground, that wheel that's off the ground, if the scooter's trying to stop, that wheel will actually spin backwards. And if you have ever changed a car on your tire, front tire is no big deal, but if it's a rear-wheel drive car and you have to jack up the back end, you have to put blocks in the front wheels for that reason. Because with one wheel off the ground, there's nothing to stop that other wheel from spinning. And the car will, if it's on a hill or whatever, it'll kind of slide back on you or forward and fall off the jacks and cause some serious personal injury. So the issue I'm looking at here, thankfully, I wasn't in a life-threatening situation. It was just me being, gung-ho, driving fast, and turning at a tight corner. I've learned from that. I don't do that anymore. But if it gets to a situation where somebody's backing out of their driveway and I have to swerve and try to stop, it's not going to stop. And the only thing that's really going to stop me is to keep turning and the friction, slow the scooter down to the point where the wheel's going to come back down. But at that point it might be too late. So to me, it's kind of it's a really serious safety issue in my opinion. But due to the soft suspension, there really isn't anything that you can do about it. The only thing that could really be changed would be to have like brakes on each wheel or something instead of using the motor to slow it down. But it's just something to watch for. This particular problem only exists with the Monster and any other scooter that's got soft suspension where the springs can allow the wheels to come off the ground. But the lever coming loose, all scooters have them, and so you can push them when they're not being powered, and they're not all going to be as fast as the Monster, but they can come loose from the vibrations, because especially the ones that don't have suspension on them, they're a pretty rough ride. Like even my ES 950's got springs on the back, but they're really, really stiff, so it's quite a vibration on those. But in its case, the lever is actually vertical instead of horizontal like the one on the Monster. With the vertical ones, the vibration actually forces it down, which is forcing it into the drive mode, so that's not an issue there. So in those cases, I think a little rubber bushing around them or something, just get a little more resistance on them. That would keep them from moving. So just be safe out there. Hopefully I don't find any more issues.